A couple of weeks ago we drove our first BMW, or at least my first on this channel, and it was actually quite cool because the i40 was a quite nice car to drive. I asked BMW if they had any other press models available, and they're like, nah, a bit tight with the planning, but we do have a tank available for you in the form of this BMW iX. My name is Peter from Autogood Fuel, and this iX is quite the car with 5 meters long, 2 meters wide and more than 2,500 kilos dry without anyone or anything in it. It is quite the vehicle. And that's maybe also the question we can ask at the beginning of this video. Is this kind of vehicle still necessary today? Or is it maybe a bit too big and a bit too cumbersome? I think in a way, yes. But on the other hand, you can also argue that a platform like this offers so much in terms of space, luxury, tech, power, battery range, and all the good stuff that you want from a car. With a price tag, obviously, but we'll get to that in a minute. It is quite the vehicle. I got the key right here, and we're going to start by opening it up, and then you'll see that the lights around the front will illuminate as well. That's the iconic BMW shaped grille, obviously, with this illuminated bar around it. Some people hate it, some people really don't like the modern BMW look. Personally, I don't mind it, I have to say. It is not as garish as I initially expected it to be, especially with a vehicle this size. And I think especially the line of the lights and the line of the hood make it feel a lot lower than it actually is. It's a 1.70 meter high vehicle, so it's a huge high car as well. But here on the front, so like this straight on, I think it actually looks quite nice. Now moving around the car, the color is Arctic Race Blue Metallic. I quite like that, to be honest. It's a nice and classy color, I think. It's not a shouty color. And I think in this color spec with the black here on the front, which is of course all optional extra M Sport package, it looks quite good even for the size of the vehicle. This car does have quite a few options. We'll get to the full price list in a bit. Of those options, obviously, we got some 21-inch wheels here. And we got the M Performance brakes behind, because obviously all this mass also needs to be stopped. This is a car with 109 kilowatt hours of battery capacity, so that's quite a lot. And charging can be done right here. We got the AC and the DC ports. 11 kilowatts at home and just under 200 kilowatts of fast charging. Now 200 kilowatts of fast charging is not really cutting it anymore these days, I think. For a car that costs 120,000 euro, I think BMW should be able to do better. The Xpeng G9 we had a few weeks ago costs 50k less and can charge almost 3 times as fast. So it's time to step that up a little bit, I think. I do accept that when you can afford this car, you're certainly going to have a charger at home. But still, when you fast charge, you want to be able to do it as fast as humanly possible. Now, despite the somewhat slow fast charging, 109 kilowatts will get you over 700 kilometers of WLTP range. Now, in real life, you're never going to make that, but you should be able to push towards the 600, so that is quite nice. Version-wise, we have the xDrive60 version here, as you can see. There is a 50 available as well. They're all xDrives, but there's also an M70 available with even more power. This though has 540 plus horsepower and will get you from 0 to 100 in 4.4 seconds, which is quite a lot, given this car weighs almost 2,600 kilos dry. So if you put some people and some stuff inside, you're pushing 3 ton. And with that kind of power, you're still going to get quite some performance out of it. All-wheel drive obviously helps as well. You need all-wheel drive with a vehicle this heavy, and especially with a vehicle this powerful. So, you know, that makes sense that all iXs are 4-wheel drive. Here in the back, the BMW iX certainly does not disappoint. I think it's a nicely sculpted car, and I think it's a good looking car from behind, especially with these integrated light units here. It's a very clean design. Also nice, we have a normal wiper with a fairly straight up window, so plenty of visibility at night and when it's raining. Excellent. I quite like the design. I don't like the bottom because we have these fake exhaust shapes in here, which I don't understand. You know it's an EV, so why design the bottom part of your bumper like that? Sort of a fake diffuser, fake, I don't know, kind of effect. Not really nice. I think that can be done a bit better. When we open the boot up, it is really everything you expect from a car in this class. 500 liters of space with the seats up. When you put those down, you go well over 1,500 liters, so you can fit 3 Christmas trees, half your family's ski holiday, your uncle and 2 wheelchairs, no problem whatsoever. It also has all the luxuries that you want. So we got some tie-down points, we got some netting, we have buttons for the seats to go down. We also have a bit of underfloor storage, in this case for your charging cable, your tow bar, tire kit, and even a net for the dog that can fit in the back. All is well there. And that's nice because you expect that from a car like this, because this is obviously a vehicle with a battery capacity that allows you for long journeys. In case you're wondering what these things are, these are additional light units, because currently the lights are on top of the hood up there, so you can't see them. And at night when you're standing still, that might be creating dangerous situations. So there's extra light units there to make sure that people coming from behind can still see that you're there. Nice touch. All right, of course, the cockpit tour of this BMW iX. And there's two things that you notice right away as soon as you get in. The first thing, foremost, is the space in here. Obviously, it's a big car, but there's a big feel of airiness here in the front. And that's despite the fact that the steering wheel is big, the seats are big, everything in here is big. But they've done it in such a way that it feels airy and comfortable right away. I think that has partly to do with the amount of glass around. There are big windows, obviously panoramic roof, but also with the lack of center console all the way here to the front. So there's a big void here in the front that gives you a lot of sense of space because there's physically a lot less material here. So that's nice. The second thing that stands out right away is the quality of the materials. Everything you touch, everything that you interact with feels nice and expensive right away. And it is expensive, obviously. It's an expensive car, but you do feel where that money went right away. So that is great. The material choices are very nice. I think the layout and the design of the dash in general is nice, but also everything that you touch feels nice and feels good, except for the piano black here in the middle, but that's the only spot where they've used it. So that is good in my book. It's also interesting to note the blend of ways of interacting that BMW has put on display here. So you got physical controls, physical buttons for your window switches and on your steering wheel, for example. Then you have everything touchscreen in the middle, of course. And you have this rotary dial and capacitive button collection here in the center console that you can also use to interact with the screen. So it's interesting that BMW has gone for that mix of ways that you interact with your vehicle. If you do the regular tour, we start with those buttons here in the door for your window and for your mirrors. We got physical controls for the seat up here as well, because there's no space between the seat and the door because the seats are so massive, and also the door bolstering is so big. And between the door and the steering wheel, there's a bunch of buttons for your light controls that you'll probably never touch. Also, something that is here is the first vent that is physical control, and that's a theme that goes on here in the middle and on the side of the passenger as well. All the vents are physical control, so that's quite nice. The only thing is that it's only for airflow and direction. So anything you want to do temperature-wise or air conditioning-wise, you got to do it in the screen, which is a bit of a half solution because the temperature, for example, is permanently displayed here on the bottom. But if you want to do anything else, you got to go to the Klima menu, and that's where things get quite complicated quite quickly. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of the ease of interaction. And that's a good point of criticism right away for the systems in general. There is almost too many options. The things you can change and the settings you can tweak, they're vast. The number of things you can do in this car is something that you won't be able to do like in an hour. You can set it up, obviously, but it's going to take you a full day, weekend, and probably some time of ownership to get the grips with all the options that are available here, to the point where it's sometimes a bit overwhelming. It took me quite some time to figure out how to turn off the regen braking, for example, because it has 7 settings and it's hidden in a menu somewhere where you don't expect it. So, you know, it does take some time to get used to the system and to deep dive way into where everything is. Now moving on to the steering wheel, it's big and chunky, so that's actually quite nice. Has the M logo here on the bottom. Gives you a good sense of control over your vehicle, which is good because it's big and heavy. And has physical buttons only, so that is fantastic. No things behind the steering wheel, no complicated things here, just some wheels and some clicky things. Excellent, that's the way you want it. Easy interaction between the wheel and the screen. It's quite nice to get to grips with the car quite quickly, and I obviously drive a lot of different cars, about 2-3 different cars a week, and sometimes it takes a bit of time to figure out how something works. This is actually relatively intuitive, so get to grips with right away. Real stalks behind the steering wheel, right side for your wiper settings and everything, left for your lights and your blinkers. Nice and simple, that's the way we want it. No blinkers on the steering wheel, no nonsense like that. This is the way we want it to be. The screen itself, the driver's display, is nice and clear, nice and big as well. It's this one big assembly, obviously with two screens in it, but it's quite nice, easy to read, also at night. Also, in terms of what you want on the screen, you can go completely crazy in terms of theme, topic, things you want to see, layout you want to see, and the same goes for the head-up display above. Again, maybe a bit overly complicated in terms of the amount of options that you have. Personally, I don't really like the look of the software. It's not that it doesn't work. It works very fast, very well. It displays all the information that you want when you want it. So that's all great, but I just don't like the way it looks in general. But that's a personal preference. When you're done with the driver's display, you get to the center display. Also, everything you want. It works so fast. It's easy to interact with. It's easy to work it. So that's fantastic. And the size is also quite nice. I like the design that it's flat and wide rather than tall. So that makes for a better view out, and it also makes it less demanding of attention all the time. The thing with the screen is, you might notice that I'm sitting in a reasonably normal driving position, but the screen is quite far away. And I caught myself having to lean forward quite often in order to do something on the screen. Obviously it's a touchscreen, but you can do everything here with the rotating dial and the shortcut buttons. And that's actually a nice way of interacting once you get used to it, that you can, for example, when you set off, you can type your destination in here quickly using the keyboard. But once you're driving, you can interact with the screen through this control wheel. And that's actually quite good because it doesn't require you to focus on the screen to hit your touch targets, and it's always complicated and difficult to hit those things while driving. But sitting here, you can relax, you don't have to move anything, you can just keep looking out and sort of glance at the screen every once in a while and interact with your fingertips with this rotary dial. So that's excellent actually, and I quite like the way that interaction can work once you get used to it. Too bad that it has this piano black capacitive slab around it. The shortcut buttons are great and they work well, but they should have been real buttons like on the steering wheel, because this is constantly smudgy and dirty. So that's the only downside. Next to the rotating dial, we have the start-stop button, the drive selector, the parking button, and the auto hold button, and a slit here that you can actually put your phone in if you want to. So that's nice, although if you have a very broad phone or a very thick case, it's not going to fit. And then you have to put your phone down here on the wireless charging pad or use one of the two USBs. There's also a 12-volt socket there and two cup holders. And then this void here that has the effect of bringing a lot of extra air to the cabin. It's also handy to put a bag or something down there, easily possible, a small backpack or something, except for the fact that there is no guard or side panel here preventing anything from rolling into the footwell of the driver. So I wouldn't be putting any open handbags or anything there, because if an apple rolls out on your brake pedal, that's a disaster obviously. But it is nice that it's there. Further storage here in the center console, split opening that's actually quite deep and fits maybe a 6-pack of cans or something. And we have a real dashboard glove box with a real button. Are you listening, Polestar? So that is nice too. Then the seats. These seats are excellent. I often have issues with seats, but in a car this size and this price, you do know where your money went, and these seats are fantastic. Heated, cooled, massaging, 19-fold adjustable, lumbar changing, bolster tightening, you name it, and these seats have it. This is fantastic. You can find a position here for sure once you're done playing with all the settings and all the options that you have. So this is extremely comfortable for anybody that buys this car. You can find a good position here. So that's great, and that makes the journey obviously much more enjoyable. When you sit here, you feel confident and comfortable behind the wheel. Now, I mentioned the amount of glass around us. That's great obviously for the view out. You really feel in command of the vehicle. There's a lot of light coming through the panoramic roof as well, but the roof has a trick. If I press the button up here, you hear the bong and the roof goes opaque. So that's actually quite nice that you can, on a hot day, actually hit the button and make the sun ingress slightly less aggressive. But even when you put it on the see-through setting, it is quite heavily tinted already. So that is all good. Then, last but not least, is the audio system. It's by Harman Kardon, which is something we've seen in plenty of other cars and brands as well. But in this car, I haven't counted the amount of speakers that it has, but man, whew, if you pump your basses here, you're literally vibrating your windows out of the frame. It's fantastic. What a system. Again, you know where your money went. But yeah, if you're a music lover, aficionado, audiophile, then you are very well off with this system. Absolutely fantastic. So there we have it, the front of the BMW iX. It's a great place to be, comfortable, plenty of options for you to play with, even to the point where it might be a bit too much. But yeah, this is a fantastic cabin for anything from sporty driving to cruising. And not much to criticize, to be honest, except maybe for the piano black here and a few details. But all round, very nice place to be. In the video of the Xpeng G9 that we did a couple of weeks ago, I put the car outside to show you how much space there's left when you park. I've done the same here with the iX, and I've put it next to an old Volvo V60. You can see how much more vehicle it is really. I mean, the V60 is not a small car, it's not a huge car either, but you can really see the size difference here. If we walk around the car, you can see that I don't stick out too much on the backside, despite the fact that it's still obviously significantly more than this Volvo. But it still fits in quite okay that way. And also when we look at the sides, you can see I'm well within the lines, no issues there whatsoever on this side. And on the other side, I still got out here quite normal. Now I have to admit that this Volvo is small enough and left enough space that it's still easy to get in and out there. Because if I open the door here, you can see that I can put that on the first opening position, no issues, and get in and out here very easily. No issues there. Obviously, if this was a bigger vehicle or if this man would have parked closer to the line, that would have been quite problematic for me to get out. But like this, all is well with the world. Now, if you walk to the front of the car, you can see that also here, it still fits in quite normally. I mean, there's still a generous amount of space here before I ruin my splitter on this piece of boulder, obviously. But, you know, all is well here and it fits in this space quite normally, I have to say. Now, obviously, this is an outside parking area with plenty of space to maneuver, as you can see. When you take this car underground in a parking structure where the margins are quite tight, it does get a bit nerve-wracking sometimes, especially with your nice 21-inch rims. But luckily, there's enough cameras and sensors around the car to help you out there. But that's really where the size of the vehicle potentially becomes problematic. Now, it is December when I film this, and before setting off, we have to make sure everything is nice and cozy in here. Things like steering wheel heating and seat heating, obviously you know and understand, and this BMW iX is no different as far as that goes. But there's also infrared heating. BMW calls it surface heating or radiant heating, and it means that there's a few panels throughout the car that have infrared heating for you to warm up. And that's more efficient actually than warming up the whole cabin with warm air. Now you can have the warm air, of course, no issues there, but the panels are here under the steering wheel dash, under the glove box here, and also the panels here in the armrest in the middle and here in the armrest of the door are infrared heating. And it is so nice to have that radiant heat coming in, especially on a chilly morning like today, where you're like, ooh, the car is cold, the air is cold, everything is cold, the materials of the seat are cold, and then to have that heating going, it's really, really nice. I don't know if it is a separate option or if it's included in some of the bundle packs, but definitely an option you need to tick. So with all those things on and nice and cozy, we can set off and start driving. Now I skipped the part getting out of my neighborhood, and in the meantime we are on the highway, which is absolutely, no question, the natural habitat of this car. With the enormous battery, with all the performance that we have, all the luxury and space here on the inside, this is a car for extreme comfort, long distance cruising. I don't think we're going to make the 700 kilometers claimed WLTP range, but with almost 110 kilowatt hours of battery power, 600-ish is certainly possible if you're a bit careful with your right foot. And you have to be careful because 544 horsepower is a lot, We're now doing 100 kilometers an hour. If I make a little bit of space ahead, and we're not even in any kind of sport mode or anything, just normal. If I pin it, 110, 20, 30, 40, 50. It is a fast car if you want it to be. And you do want it to be fast because all this power is actually quite usable. I haven't driven the 45 nor the M70 with less and a lot more horsepower, but I think it is quite a good spot, this car, in terms of power and performance delivery. Because the way the power comes in is very pleasant. You'll be pinned in your seat, don't get me wrong, but it's a nice way of accelerating. And you can turn the BMW iconic sounds off, of course, if that's not your kind of thing. But it's a pleasant way of interacting and communicating with the vehicle through the go pedal. When you have to bring it all to a stop, it's a slightly different story, because this car, as it sits almost 2,600 kilos empty, add me on top, then we're gonna push 2,700. If I add the rest of my family and some luggage to go on a holiday, you're pushing 3 tons. So that is a lot of weight that you also have to bring to a stop. We have the M Performance brakes on this car, certainly an option I would tick, because you do notice quite how heavy the car is when you have to step on the brake pedal. It's all fine in most situations, but when you really have to brake hard, you really feel that mass. And it's not concerning or anything or alarming that it's all out of control, but it is a lot of mass that you have to stop. Now, getting in the back of this iX, obviously the expectations are high because it is such a large vehicle. And on first impressions, the car does not disappoint. There's so much space back here. 90 kilos and 1.83 m, I fit here with ease. Headroom wise, for example, there's this much space left for me. So that is fantastic. And also if I go to the seat in front, there's this much space left before I hit the seat. So space-wise, fantastic. And also the amount of light that you get back here through the big windows and the panoramic roof, absolutely fantastic. But it's not perfect. Just space is not enough. This is, of course, a premium experience. And there's a few things going slightly off here. First thing is the back of the seats is hard. Now, it's not an issue in general, because with 183 I'm sitting behind myself and there's plenty of space. But if you have a taller driver and a taller passenger, that might become an issue. And a hard seat back is never a good solution, because it is instantly uncomfortable as soon as you touch it. But at least the car is so big that there is some room for wiggling here. The biggest issue with the seat though is this piano black inlay here in the middle of it. First of all, there's a hole in it, so I'm constantly looking into the neck of the driver from back here, which is an odd thing to do, and I don't understand why this needs to be here. And it's piano black, so it's constantly smudgy when you're plugging in your USB devices here. And there's a little connection point here for accessories like a tablet holder, for example. So that's fine, and the seats are quite massive, but I have to say the car is so wide and so bright in the front that it's not too bad to sort of see past the seat, also not for kids. I had to transport some of my 8-year-old's friends the other day, and I asked them specifically about them. They were like, no, there's plenty of space, also because the space between the seats, there's such an amount of information coming from the front that it's not an issue. What is an issue is the full piano black ventilation cover here in the middle. What a complete disaster that is. Who sat in a meeting and thought, you know what? Kids never have greasy fingers, so piano black is going to stay fantastic all the time back there. Baffling, absolutely baffling, that the thing you touch the most here is fully piano black. I've had this car for a week now, and it has been smudgy since day one. It is an absolute disaster. So whoever put that in, it needs to be fired, BMW, because this is unacceptable. It is nice that you have your own ventilation control though, and it is nice that this version has heated seats on the outside seats. So as far as that goes, it's fine. But it is such a letdown. It is absolutely no-go. What is a good thing though is that there is a fully flat floor, so I can fully stretch here. It is fantastic the amount of foot space you have here. which also really adds to the comfort back here. 3 adults side by side, no problem. It is all about comfort back here and all about space. Last but not least, the center armrest is enclosed, so that's good too. No nonsense with cup holders in here. They come out of the front, so that's good too. And we have no ski hatch, but we have a little pulley here to open this up completely, and then here's a pass-through to the boot. So that's great if you want to go on ski holiday, which you will, because if you can afford this car, you are somebody who skis. And with four-wheel drive and all this space and all this range, it's maybe even the perfect ski holiday car. If we put this car in a city context, it is obviously limited by its size that makes it so comfortable out here. Things like parking are not a problem if you do it with a bit of foresight and poise, but it's certainly also not the most pleasant experience to maneuver a car this size through a city center. If you put it back here on the highway, it's almost the ultimate cruiser, I'd say, partly also thanks to the air suspension, which makes it super comfortable over speed bumps and anything in a city context. And out here, it just makes you float over anything, really. Here in the Netherlands, we have quite good asphalt in general, so it's not strictly necessary as far as that goes. But the way you can control the car down the road with that air suspension is just so much nicer. And also, when you want to go to some kind of sports setting, you can obviously make it a bit more tight and have a bit more control over how the car responds in corners and so on. Not that you're going to show it any corners, because the same weight that is very present when braking is the same weight that is going to come bite you when you want to drive around tight bends. This is not the car for it. It is very, very capable, but as soon as you start to take things a bit serious, you immediately notice how heavy it is. So I wouldn't pick this as the car to go up a mountain pass at speed, but I certainly would pick this car as my vehicle to drive to ski holiday, because you have everything really that you can ever desire from a car in terms of performance, space, boot space, family space. Everything works with this car, and it's such a great all-rounder as far as that goes, in terms of transporting people and things around in pure style, comfort and luxury. The only real point of criticism I can have, I think, is mostly with the abundance of options almost, especially with regards to the software. If I go to my driving modes, for example, we are currently in personal, but there's also a sport, an efficient, an expressive, a relaxing, a digital art and a silent mode. It's just too much. And in all those modes, you can set everything from the seat massager to the stereo to how bright the screens are and everything in between. And I highly doubt anybody is ever going to use all of them, apart from a his and a her profile, and you're going to leave it at that. I don't think it is necessary to have that many options. And the same thing goes for the depth of the software. Sometimes it's too much choice, too many options, too many settings to push. Keeping things simple is also an art form, I think. Now, obviously, you want to know how much all this goodness is going to cost you. Good question. I got the BMW spec sheets here. We can start with this iX, with the xDrive60 for only 87,000 euros here in the Netherlands. For that money, you get 408 horsepower. You will go from 0 to 100 in 5.1 seconds. And you get a slightly smaller battery than this one at just under 95 kilowatt hours. So that's the start of the range. This one is the iX xDrive60. We get a few more toys there. We get 544 horsepower. We go from 0 to 100 in 4.6 seconds, so half a second quicker. And we get that big battery at 109 kilowatt hours, good for a 700 plus WLTP range. If all that is not extreme enough for you, you can go to the iX M70 xDrive for 132,000 euro starting price. For that, you get 659 horsepower though, so that's quite a lot. And you go from 0 to 100 in 3.8 seconds, so quite a lot quicker as well. But you're going to have to pay the price in terms of range for a maximum of 600 kilometers, because of course all that power does cost more electricity. Then the car that we have here specifically, I got the spec sheet for you right here. There's quite a few extras here above the base price. For example, that Arctic Race Blue Metallic color will cost you 1,000 euros extra. The interior design suite will cost you $2,300. We got the integral active steering for $1,300. Adaptive air suspension front and back for $1,800. M Sport package. M Sport Package Pro. We got the fantastic glass panoramic Sky Lounge roof for almost €3,000. We got an additional comfort pack for €1,700. We got that illuminated grille for quite a lot of money. We got the innovation pack, and we got a few other things. And then on top of all that, we get some taxes, some recycling, and some other good stuff. For a grand total for this car as it sits here for €120,199.70. For that money though, you do get basically everything that you could ever want in a car. Anything really that you might want is in this car somewhere, I'm sure. Despite the fact that there is a more powerful version, this one basically has all the toys and all the things that you want. If you look at the price, €120,000 plus for this version as it sits here, 130 plus easy for the M70 high performance version. It's a lot of money, but you do get so much car for it. If you look at the premium German brothers from Audi and Mercedes, they're not any cheaper. If you look at a Range Rover fully kitted out, it's the same. So yeah, those cars from those brands, they do cost this kind of money. However, if you look at the Chinese competition, the Xpeng G9 I already mentioned is 50k less and has the same amount of power, also four-wheel drive, same amount of space. So that's something. Neo has something really nice in the EL8, also with a lot of power, four-wheel drive, a lot of space, a lot of tech. Zeekr 7X, same kind of story. So, you know, I think BMW is also very aware of that competition and is looking at that competition as well. And I'm convinced that that competition is also coming. So compared to those brands, it is very expensive for what you get, but compared to the German peers, it maybe is not. So if you have that kind of money and you're looking for a car in this class and you like BMW, this is the one. This is everything you want. And I think this 60 version is also a nice middle ground of the range, where you don't have the 45 with less battery and less performance, but you also don't have the craziness of the M70. I think the 60 is quite the sweet spot. And that's all I got for you in this video. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about cars like this. If they still have a place, if it should be smaller, or if this is the ultimate luxury performance electric SUV that Europe has to offer at this point. Interesting to read how you guys feel about cars like this. Let me know. For now, thank you very much for watching though. Give it a thumbs up if you like this video, and I'll catch you guys again in the next one. Cheers.